Can you touch your toes without feeling like your hamstrings are fighting against you? Or deadlift fairly comfortably with a full range of motion? If not, don't worry, you've probably just got tight hamstrings and this video is going to fix that. I've got a scientifically backed 3-step method that's not only about hamstring flexibility, but is instantly going to improve your lifts next time you hit the gym. And the best part is only one of these steps actually involves a traditional way that you would think of stretching your hamstrings. Before we dive in, I just want to apologise if I sound a bit funny because I've got a bit of a cold, but I really just wanted to get this video made because hamstring tightness is something that I've struggled with for far too long. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you know exactly where I'm coming from. But since I started using these 3 steps, I've actually seen so much progress and I honestly couldn't wait to get it out there to help you guys do the same. Because having tight hamstrings is so frustrating because you know that you can lift more than you're lifting, but you don't want to hurt yourself. And yeah, it's just not fun. So if you want to level up your lifting, let's get into it. But before we start stretching the hamstrings, there's actually another part of the body that's probably the main issue. For the longest time, I used to struggle with hitting depth in my squats. I tried box squats, pause squats, pulse squats. I tried literally everything, but I could barely hit parallel on a good day. Just whatever I tried, nothing seemed to be improving my depth. And I couldn't figure it out until I started focusing on my hip flexors. Having tight hip flexors can really limit your squat depth and flexibility, so strengthening my hip flexors completely changed my squat performance and overall lower body mobility. When you're beginning a squat, especially if you're doing a front squat or a high bar back squat, the main role of your hip flexors, as you might be able to guess, is to flex the hip joint. Hip flexion involves lifting your thigh towards your torso or bending at the waist. In a squat, this is especially important during the lowering phase, and also to help you generate the power you need to transition from the lowering phase to pushing out the squat. You're engaging the hip flexors to initiate the movement by flexing the hips, and this helps keep you stable throughout the movement. But what does this have to do with your hamstrings? Well, there's this concept called reciprocal inhibition. And don't worry, I promise it's less complicated than the last exam you took. Reciprocal inhibition is all about relaxing a muscle group on one side of a certain joint to make room for the contraction of another muscle group on the opposite side. It can be helpful to think about, like, if you're trying to flex your bicep, then your tricep has to lengthen and relax in order for your bicep to contract. I mean, you can't really see it with a hoodie on. Sorry, but you know how people are always like and subscribe? I just thought of a really cheesy way to ask for you guys to subscribe. I was gonna be like, subscribe for the buys, but yeah, we're not gonna do that. So if you feel like you're getting value out of this video, or you want to see more content like this, it would just mean so much to me if you consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much. I think the cold's getting to me, but let's power through. If you're trying to flex your bicep, then your tricep has to relax and lengthen in order for your bicep to contract. In a similar way, strengthening our hip flexors allows us to use this idea of reciprocal inhibition to relax our hamstring and allow it to lengthen in the most optimal way. Right, so to do this practically, here's the 3 steps we're going to use. Get into a kneeling position with one leg extended in front of you. You might want to do this near a wall for balance, or you could support yourself with a chair or some yoga blocks if you've got them. Keeping your spine in a neutral position, you want to push your hips backwards and gently hinge forward to engage your hip flexor. Try and lift your front foot off the floor while keeping your leg as straight as possible. It doesn't really matter how much you can get your foot off the floor, it's the hip flexor engagement that counts. This move's harder than it looks, so try and hold the position for 8 to 10 seconds. Bend your torso further forward to make it more challenging, or keep a more upright posture to make it easier. Moving on to step 2, we actually want to be able to engage more of the muscle fibers in our hamstring. You can sort of think of muscle fiber recruitment like a basketball game. You've got your main players active on the court, and then you've got the guys on the bench who are ready to go, but they're just not in the game yet. Now, this analogy is not perfect, but in a similar way, not all of the muscle fibers in a particular muscle group are going to be active straight away. To increase your flexibility and power in your lifts, we want to increase the number of active muscle fibers in your hamstrings. So back in a kneeling position, this movement aims to activate and strengthen these fibers. Again, slightly push back with your hips while keeping your spine fairly neutral. Gently lean forward and use the ball for balance. From here, you want to push the heel of your front foot downwards and imagine you're trying to push it through the floor. Like, actually through the floor. So you're putting effort in here. It's okay if you need to be slightly bent, and we're going to aim to hold it here for about 10 seconds. But why does this benefit your lifting? I've heard some people explain it as having more soldiers on a battlefield. So the more muscle fibers involved, the more strength and power you're going to have when you're carrying a heavy load. Okay, step number 3. If you're anything like me, you might be tempted to blame muscle stiffness when you're feeling your least flexible. However, your nervous system also plays a really important role. So when you're pushing your limits in the gym, you might have noticed that your body has a way of telling you when it's not feeling comfortable. It's got this sort of built-in alarm system that makes your body feel discomfort when it thinks it's under threat. You know that feeling when you're in the middle of a deadlift and your body's suddenly like, hold up, this is getting heavy. That's your nervous system talking. So to help us lift better, we want to be able to work with our nervous system. Think about this like teaching your nervous system that what you're doing is okay and you're safe, so it doesn't need to sound the alarm. Here's what we're going to do. In that kneeling position, gently arch your lower back and try and keep your balance. Slowly start to hinge forward until you feel a gentle stretch in your hamstrings. A gentle stretch. Make sure you focus on breathing slowly and steadily to encourage your nervous system to relax. This shouldn't be an intense stretch because your aim here is to get your body to relax. We're going to hold it for about 8 to 10 seconds, then repeat on the other side.
To really get the most out of this method, you want to repeat each stage a few times on both sides. And make sure you don't do it immediately before your workout, because this element of static stretching could make you more likely to get injured. If you want a follow-along version of the whole routine, drop the word GOLD in the comments and I'll make it happen.
Strengthening your hip flexors, being able to activate more muscle fibers in your hamstrings, and also working with your nervous system, these steps aren't just going to improve your hamstring flexibility. They're really going to boost your lifting progress in the gym. That being said, a major thing that a lot of people struggle with that's really limiting their lifts is actually having the core strength that you need to be able to stabilize yourself as you're moving the weight. Funnily enough, this is something that I also struggled with. So if this sounds familiar, make sure you check out this video next and you'll be good to go. I thought the camera was going to fall over there. It was going to fall over.